Part 25. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 242. Inside the bedroom, the dim candlelight flickered slightly. Under the candlelight, the beautiful face of the beauty was reflected. And there was a hint of intoxicating rosy red on her beautiful and exquisite cheeks. Even her eyes, as bright and clear as stars, were like water and affection, shining with a different kind of brilliance. I just banged the Empress against the bed. Looking at Chu Qingyu's shy eyes, Nai Chen knew very well. All this had been expected by her. From the moment she let herself come to the bedroom, Chu Qingyu had already thought of this scene. And there was no resistance at all. A slightly hot breath came, and the fragrant breath was refreshing. The white gauze dress on Chu Qingyu's body was very thin. Lying on the bed, the messy lapels had revealed a little whiteness in it. The eyes were clear and moving, and the lips were crystal clear. The heart beat faster than Nai Chen's, and Chu Qingyu stared at Nai Chen shyly. Whether it was the original seven-colored nirvana flower or the existence of fighting against the half-step calamity for herself alone, Nai Chen had done too much for her. More importantly, the surging emotions like the tide had already come to fruition. The feelings between the two had already reached an extremely intimate level without words. "You, don't stare at me so straight, it's really too embarrassing." Noticing Nai Chen's gaze, the blush on Chu Qingyu's cheeks became more beautiful and moving. "Then where do you want me to look, my wife?" At this moment, even Nai Chen was slightly stunned. He did force himself to sleep with the Empress as a pillow in the bedroom, and took the opportunity to eat a lot of Chu Qingyu's tofu. He also used the spiritual pupil a lot. But this scene was a bit unexpected for him. Even though Chu Qingyu still tried to maintain her aloofness, her increasingly rapid breathing and shy expression could not be concealed at all. If this continued, she would lose face as the Empress. "Damn it, this Empress ordered you." She was only halfway through. Unconsciously, Chu Qingyu slightly raised her head and kissed Nai Chen. But she did not expect that Nai Chen would also kiss her. Not bad. After the kiss, Chu Qingyu actually regained some confidence. But in the reflection of the light, the beautiful face still had a hint of blush. They were so close that in addition to the faint fragrance on Chu Qingyu's body, Nai Chen also smelled a hint of other smells. It's the smell of wine. No wonder the Empress was obviously not right today. In order to be brave at this moment, she actually secretly drank some wine in advance. "You are really worthy of you." Nai Chen smiled slightly and got closer. Chu Qingyu's heart was beating like a rabbit. Seeing that smile, even if she was drunk, she still couldn't hide her shyness. "Damn it, I'll bite you to death." Her teeth bit Nai Chen's shoulder lightly, leaving a crystal tooth mark. "Hey, if that's the case, I won't be polite." Nai Chen smiled, and also left a tooth mark on that snow-white shoulder. "It hurts." Chu Qingyu sighed softly. "It hurts more later." Her body leaned softly in his arms. Under the flickering candlelight, Nai Chen gently pulled the curtains beside the bed. For today, Chu Qingyu even drank to boost her courage despite being too drunk. Naturally, Nai Chen would not let her down. Outside the curtain, the graceful and delicate body was reflected. The candlelight slowly shone into the curtain, and Chu Qingyu's sparkling eyes stared at Nai Chen tightly, as if she had thousands of emotions. The candlelight flickered, perhaps because the wind was too strong, the bed was shaking and there were bursts of groans. After an unknown amount of time, Chu Qingyu stared at Nai Chen again. The shyness had not yet subsided, but the willow brows that were slightly frowned due to the slight pain had eased. "That's it?" The cold and arrogant words from the Empress seemed to have a hint of mockery in them. Nai Chen smiled awkwardly and was speechless. For such a long time, he and the Empress had won and lost against each other. But he always won more and lost less. But he didn't expect to lose in this aspect. His wife was indeed a powerful emperor. Nai-Chen felt weak all over and could hardly hold on. He, you know how powerful this emperor is. As for you, even if you come for another few hundred years, it's not enough. Chu Qingyu smiled slightly with a little pride. It was not easy to find a place to mock Nai-Chen, and she would never let it go. Damn it! In the past, when the Empress occasionally showed this playful look, Nai-Chen could always find a way to deal with him. But now that he was extremely weak, Nai-Chen could not muster any strength at all. Wait. But at this moment, Nai-Chen suddenly remembered the reward that the system had just given him. Old tricks again. Good brother. So this is the real intention of the system. Nai-Chen never thought that the system would be so considerate. Wife, are you sure? A subtle smile suddenly appeared at the corner of Nai-Chen's mouth. What are you going to do? Chu Qingyu, who was originally very confident, saw Nai-Chen's strange look and suddenly realized that something was wrong. At this moment, she suddenly realized that Nai-Chen's aura had suddenly changed. The aura that was already weak and decadent had completely changed, and even became stronger. Suddenly, a trace of panic appeared on Chu Qingyu's confident face. Damn it, don't come over here. Humph, my wife, you have to return your ridicule double. Nai-Chen smiled slightly. The surging waves finally subsided, and the dark clouds in the sky slowly dissipated. Half an hour later, Nai-Chen looked at Chu Qingyu, who was hiding in the corner and staring at him with resentment, and smiled awkwardly. The arrogant empress finally got punished, which was naturally very gratifying. After all, bullying your wife is also fun. But the problem is. Nai-Chen stood up, holding the wall, and stumbled and almost fell to the ground. His weak body was completely unable to take another step. Nai-Chen was a little amused. Even if there is a system of reuse the old trick, the emperor is still the emperor after all, and his small body can't hold it. This is still with the help of reuse the old trick. If not. Thinking of the consequences, Nai-Chen couldn't help but feel a chill on his back. Fortunately, he refined a lot of pills to replenish himself, otherwise with the strength of the Empress, he might not last for a few days. Nai-Chen lay on the bed and gave up the idea of leaving the palace. What's wrong with you? Seeing that Nai-Chen suddenly didn't plan to leave and lay weakly on the bed, Chu Qingyu asked curiously with the blush on her pretty face still not fading. Nai-Chen, weak. Chu Qingyu. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 243. The night passed. In the early morning of the next day, when the sun slowly shone into the palace, Nai-Chen turned over and sat up. Last night, I used Chu Qingyu as a pillow for the whole night, and she seemed to have a very comfortable sleep this time. Not only that. Nai-Chen looked at the Empress, who was still sleeping. She closed her eyes lightly, her delicate body trembling slightly with her even breathing. That beautiful sleeping face is as tranquil and intoxicating as the fairy in the painting. Nai-Chen couldn't help but smile, gently pulled up the corner of the quilt, and lightly covered Chu Qingyu's snow-white shoulders. Recalling last night, even Nai-Chen himself did not expect that the Empress would suddenly become so proactive. But even though she barely gained a little advantage by using old tricks again, Chu Qingyu was very proactive last night. Because of his understanding of the Empress, Nai-Chen could already imagine how shy and cute she would be when she woke up. Ups and downs, memories are unforgettable. The only problem is. Nai-Chen reluctantly got out of bed, feeling as if his whole body had been drained, and he couldn't use any strength at all. Even walking seemed a little staggering, and he could only hold onto the wall. The ancients once said, the highest state of eating at a buffet is to hold onto the wall to enter and to exit. But I didn't expect that the Empress Palace would be like this. After finally holding onto the wall and walking out of the palace door, Nai Chen gently opened the door. In the sunlight, Nai Chen felt how weak he was. As expected of an empress, I'd better pretend to fall asleep after using the old trick again, otherwise. Hiss. Nai Chen couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Accompanying you is like accompanying a tiger, this is probably what is said. On the surface, the empress looks aloof and arrogant, as if she is extremely indifferent to everything in the world. But when faced with that kind of thing, it's terrifying. Nai Chen, why are you like this? Could it be that you suffered some hidden injury during the battle and suddenly broke out? At this moment, Elder Wang, who was passing by in the distance, suddenly noticed Nai Chen. Seeing Nai Chen's pale and thin face under the sun, he was obviously frightened. You know, yesterday, Nai Chen was still punching the Sifang Holy Emperor on the ring, achieving impressive results that no one could match. As a result, after just one night, Nai Chen's face turned frighteningly pale, and he became extremely weak as if he had lost 10 pounds overnight. If he hadn't suffered a severe hidden injury, Elder Wang would not have been able to imagine what could have caused Nai Chen, who had such strength, to become like this. It's okay, I'm just a little weak. Nai Chen waved his hand. There's really nothing serious about my body, I'm just a little bit about to collapse. However, fortunately, a few pills were refined in advance. Nai Chen slowly and finally took out the Longjian Yang Yang pill and stuffed it into his mouth. The moment the elixir entered his mouth, countless Yang energy instantly filled Nai Chen's limbs. It was as warm as the sun and restored the energy in his body. Nai Chen never thought that one day he would finally use the refined Dragon Song aphrodisiac pill. But he soon discovered that even the dignified 7th grade elixirs and the Longjian Yang Yang pill, which contained countless spiritual energy and Yang energy, could not completely make up for his body. The deficit is so huge that even the countless Yang energy is not enough. The Empress is too outrageous. Nai Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he had to take 2 more pills. Although Emperor Fiyu and Emperor Yushin were killed, it seems that improving their strength has become more urgent than before. If he can't reach the realm of the Great Emperor quickly, even with the existence of the Dragon Song aphrodisiac pill, he won't be able to withstand the Empress. What kind of elixir is this? It has such a curative effect. Seeing that Nai Chen's thinness and weakness were making up for it at a speed visible to the naked eye, even his expression softened to an unknown degree. Elder Wang seemed a little curious and looked at the elixir in Nai Chen's hand. But when he saw it clearly, he was stunned. What Nai Chen took was the Dragon's Yin aphrodisiac pill that was refined that day. What's more important is that the direction Nai Chen came from just now was from the Empress's palace. Combined with the extremely weak feeling that Nai Chen showed just now, Elder Wang was stunned on the spot. Nai Chen, you. The sun shone softly into the bedroom, and Chu Qingyu lifted the quilt covering her body with warmth all over her body. The corner of the quilt was tightly covered, and it was obviously covered with care by Nai Chen before leaving. Half sitting up, her snow-white shoulders were exposed from the quilt. Looking at the sunlight outside, Chu Qingyu couldn't help but smile. The smile on the corner of her mouth is so sweet. Humph, I didn't expect that. I almost lost to him again yesterday. Damn Nai Chen, what method did he use to recover in an instant? Recalling what happened last night, she instantly felt her cheeks become red and hot, and her heart was beating like a deer. But Chu Qingyu was not discouraged. You were the one who fell asleep yesterday. Next time, I won't lose again. Inadvertently, the corners of her mouth raised slightly. Chu Qingyu took out the green bamboo stick from under the pillow and placed it lightly on the corner of her mouth. No music score was used. At this moment, I just played according to the melody written in my heart. The melodious Xiao sound floated in the palace, like a trickle, soft and sweet. What's more important is that the hidden emotion in it makes the whole Xiao Sheng seem to be more strenuous. There is the sorrow of parting and the joy of meeting again. The joy of meeting a lover and the nostalgia for the past. The melodious sound of the flute seemed to float around the Tianyun palace like fairy music, and it attracted several birds from the sky. Several birds with colorful feathers flew into the bedroom and landed on Chu Qingyu's snow-white shoulders. The white clothes fell on the bed. Accompanied by the echoing sound of the flute, the birds also sang melodiously like singing. The sun shone down, and the beautiful figure seemed like a banished fairy in the world, beautiful beyond description. After the flute sound ended, Chu Qingyu put down the bamboo flute in her hand, and a warm smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Sister Ming, my life now has changed a lot compared to the past. I wonder what you are doing now. Chu Qingyu murmured to herself, her eyes moving, and she looked at the scroll on the wall of the bedroom with a smile. There are many hanging scrolls, but the most exquisite and carefully framed one is quietly placed in the depths of the palace. On that scroll, there is a painting of a slightly gloomy but extremely beautiful girl. The girl wears an exquisite crown on her head, which sets off her unique temperament. And no one knows that the portrait painted on this scroll is the appearance of the princess of the underworld, Yuming. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 244. Tianyun Palace. As the majestic sound of string music floated in the sky, all the disciples stood in awe. The elders and holy envoys in Tianyun Hall immediately set off for the main hall. Every once in a while, Tianyun Palace will hold a general meeting like a human king holding court in the morning. But what was being discussed was far beyond what an ordinary human dynasty could compare to. Strange, what is this? Nai Chen looked in the direction of Tianyun Palace with some curiosity. Brother Nai, don't you know? The disciple on the side asked curiously, but he quickly came to his senses. Senior brother Nai has little time to get started, and he often goes out to complete tasks maybe he has never caught up before. This is a meeting convened by the Empress to all the elders. From a few days to a few months, the Tianyun Palace will hold a meeting, where the elders will report important matters to the Empress and obey the Empress's orders. That's right, it sounds interesting. Nai Chen nodded. Brother Nai, what do you want to do? Only elders and holy envoys are allowed to enter the meeting. If ordinary disciples sneak in secretly, they will be severely punished. Seeing Nai Chen a little strange, the disciple quickly stopped him. Don't worry, the Empress will not punish me even if she punishes anyone. Rather, I am looking forward to the Queen's punishment. However, Nai Chen smiled slightly and had already passed the obstruction of the disciples, headed towards the main hall, and blended in with the elders who were going forward. The disciple was left standing there alone, completely stunned. Sitting on the throne deep in the hall, in the mist, the beautiful and clear silhouette is so beautiful that everyone can't help but feel endless awe in their hearts. The awe-inspiring imperial power faintly floated in the slightly cold air. Even though they could only stand in awe at His Highness from a distance, all the elders and holy envoys were in awe, and their awe was beyond words. This is Empress Qingyu, a being who is enough to make the world show all their respect and awe. During the battle, the scene of the Empress fighting the two great emperors and the corpses of the half-step tribulation realm by herself was still vivid in our minds. Empress Qi, all the monks sent by Emperor Fiyu have been dealt with. 40% of those who resisted were killed, and the other 60% who chose to surrender have become prisoners. Elder Wang took the lead to step forward and respectfully reported back with his hands raised. Emperor Yushin's forces have all been eliminated. Except for 20% of those who were killed, everyone else has chosen to surrender. The origin of the dragon blood formation is under investigation, and the whereabouts of old Long Aogu have not yet been found. The small country in the southwest that insulted me, Tianyun Palace, has been crushed. The alliance with Hongyu and Holy Land is under discussion. The negotiations with the Northwest dynasty have not yet been successful. The elders made reports one after another, which could almost be regarded as good news frequently. The overall situation laid out by Tianyuan Palace on all sides of Lanchuan Road rarely suffers setbacks. After this battle, the Empress's majesty was further enhanced in Lanchuan continent. After listening to the reports of the elders, Chu Qingyu nodded slightly. A cold and majestic voice emanated from the misty clouds: "Send the captive monks from the Holy Land to the border and let them guard the fortress where the ferocious monsters are. Anyone who resists will be killed without mercy. Order the 12 Xingluo palaces to prepare a large number of troops to attack Fiyu Holy Land and Yushan Holy Land at any time, completely annihilating these two holy lands and avoiding future troubles forever. As for the dynasty in the northwest, there is no need to negotiate, just flatten it." Yes. With just a few words, Chu Qingyu made all important decisions clearly and without any hesitation. And every order seems to be decided very decisively, but it is obviously after careful consideration. The processing techniques are even more astonishing. There are many prosperous dynasties in Lanchuan continent, and there are also several powerful holy places or forces. But leaders like the Empress are extremely rare. He is decisive in killing, powerful, and always has that awe-inspiring cold majesty. Every time the Empress makes a decision, Tianyuan Palace will be able to further improve. Such an admirable leader is the reason why Tianyuan Palace becomes stronger step by step. All the elders responded with their hands in awe. Sure enough, although there have been many conspiracy theories about the Empress and Nai Chen recently, but the Empress will always be the cold and arrogant Empress, whom people can only look up to with respect. It is estimated that even when the Empress forced her to kiss Nai Chen, it was just an accident that she had already thought about. But at this moment, several elders suddenly noticed a figure walking out of a neat queue. Nai Chen. Seeing this figure clearly, several elders were stunned. Only the supreme elders and holy envoys were eligible to enter the court convened by the Empress. Why did Nai Chen come in? Empress, in addition to what the elders just said, this disciple also has some important things to report to the Empress. Nai Chen walked out of the queue, faced the misty mist and slightly cupped his hands. Nai Chen, are you crazy? Even if the Empress treats you completely differently from others, she dares to break the rules of Tianyuan Palace. Elder Wang secretly gritted his teeth and couldn't help but worry about Nai Chen. What happened? However, it far exceeded all the elders' expectations. The Empress' voice floating from behind the clouds sounded extremely strange. Although he still seemed to be aloof, something was obviously wrong. Of course it is a very important matter. This matter has even affected the entire Tianyuan Palace. If it continues like this, I am afraid it will even affect all the disciples, elders, and even the 12 Xingluo palaces. Nai Chen said. When these words came out, the elders showed a sense of astonishment at the same time. They thought that Nai Chen had sneaked into the palace for no important matter. Unexpectedly, it was to report such a big thing. It was enough to affect the entire Tianyuan Palace and even the 12 Xingluo palaces. What a shocking problem this matter is. Could it be that after the battle, there was something that they didn't notice that was missed? In an instant, all the elders dared not say a word more, and completely gave up their previous thoughts, and listened to what Nai Chen said solemnly. Yes, this matter is related to the Empress. Under everyone's gaze, Nai Chen finally spoke slowly. Empress Qingyu is the backbone of our Tianyuan Palace, but she often doesn't care about herself. She often drinks cold water, and even when she has a stomachache around the 6th of every month, she doesn't care about the cold water. Even if it's very cold in the palace, she often doesn't pay attention to covering herself with a quilt when she sleeps, and sometimes exposes half of her body. Not only that, the Empress often handles things day and night, and doesn't pay attention to her body and sleep. These things seem trivial. But if they accumulate one day and make the Empress sick, Wouldn't it be enough to affect the entire Tianyun palace? In an instant, everyone present was dumbfounded. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 245. So, Nai Chen, what do you want to say? The elders were all dumbfounded. They never expected that the extremely important things Nai Chen mentioned were these. No, what's more important is how Nai Chen knew these things. Even the elders who have served in Tianyun Hall for hundreds of years still don't know these things. How did Nai Chen know these things about the Empress's privacy? Nai Chen spread his hands and said calmly. I mean, of course, I hope the Empress can pay attention to her body. It is important to be clear at all times that no matter how important other things are, they are not as important as physical health. When you have a stomachache, you must drink more hot water, and go to bed early no matter what you are dealing with. When facing any matter, you must first consider your own safety. Well, that's about it. Nai Chen thought about it and smiled with satisfaction. But in return, there was only embarrassment in the entire Tianyun Hall. The questions Nai Chen reminded were not wrong. But how come these words, and the tone they were spoken in, were as sweet as a father caring for his daughter, or a husband caring for his wife? Many elders had lived their whole lives, and in all the years in Tianyun Palace, they had never seen anyone dare to speak to the Empress like this. Is Nai Chen crazy? Why are you saying these things? At this moment, a slightly flustered voice came from behind the misty clouds. Everyone clearly felt that there was a slight tremor and shyness in this cold voice. Yes, there did seem to be a hint of shyness in it. Even if it was only a very subtle trace, this tone, which was completely different from the usual cold and arrogant tone, could be instantly noticed. Nai Chen smiled and said, I can't help it. I'm worried that if I tell the Empress directly, she won't listen, so I have to report it to her in the form of an audience. Let's talk about these things later, don't talk about this kind of thing here. Chu Qingyu's voice became obviously stranger. Impossible, I'm worried about the health of the Empress, and I don't want to delay even a second. Then you can't. It doesn't matter if I have to endure criticism in front of all the elders. After all, compared to the health of the Empress, everything else doesn't matter at all. You're so corny. Corn is corny, who told me that I really care about the Empress too much? The elders stood on both sides of the hall, listening to the flirting back and forth. They were stunned and completely dumbfounded. The scene in front of them was completely beyond their cognition. If this scene didn't happen between Nai Chen and the Empress, I'm afraid anyone would think it was a scene of love between lovers. And it was super sweet. Is this really the Empress? No. Thinking back to the Empress who handled things decisively and calmly just now, they knew it very well in their hearts. The Empress is still the Empress. But when facing Nai Chen, it is obviously different from before. If it is said that the Empress kissed Nai Chen forcefully when the two emperors attacked Tianyun Palace, it might be because of the emergency. The scene at this moment is already difficult to explain. At this moment when the whole world does not know the slightest news, listening to the sweet interaction between the Empress and Nai Chen. These respected elders felt a series of loud noises in their heads, and they had no idea what to say. Well, at most, I will agree to you. At this moment, a slightly ashamed and helpless voice came from the clouds. The Empress is wise. Nai Chen bowed and smiled. The Empress is wise. The elders also followed Nai Chen and bowed their heads involuntarily. After bowing, they felt something was wrong. The interaction between Nai Chen and the Empress seemed to have nothing to do with them. At this time, Chu Qingyu coughed twice, forcibly restored her previous coldness, and announced that today's meeting was over. If there is anything important, please consult with me again. As Chu Qingyu's voice fell, the ethereal and graceful figure disappeared behind the clouds. The elders were stunned for a while and looked at each other. Their faces were full of embarrassment, confusion, doubt, and other emotions. Even if they racked their brains, they couldn't figure out what happened today. At this moment, on the hillside behind Tianyun Palace, under the shade of the trees, Nai Chen saw the graceful figure sitting on the lawn on the hillside, with her skirt fluttering in the wind. He slowly approached and sat next to Chu Qingyu. Soon, Chu Qingyu turned her head, with a hint of resentment on her beautiful face. Haha, there's nothing I can do. After all, only in the Tianyun Palace meeting did I finally have the opportunity to suppress you, my wife, once. Nai Chen couldn't help but laugh at this cute look. Humph, never mind. Your suggestion is not bad, so I will forgive you. Chu Qingyu snorted, although there was still a hint of resentment in her voice. The breeze swept by, and she moved slightly, but she slowly approached Nai Chen. The flowers and plants under her lotus feet danced, tickling her a little. And what happened last night? The first time was fine, how could you do it the second time? Thinking back to the scene of last night, Chu Qingyu couldn't help but feel a little hot on her cheeks. In this strange place, she was at a disadvantage again. Damn it! However, Nai Chen fell asleep last night, otherwise, he might have a chance to regain his face. Humph, you know how powerful it is. Seeing Chu Qingyu's expression, Nai Chen smiled triumphantly. After all, to be able to impress the majestic Empress Qingyu, no one else in the world can do it except herself. Beasts, beasts. Chu Qingyu murmured softly. He couldn't help but move slightly away from Nai Chen. The snow-white and smooth jade legs couldn't help but close together. Haha, I didn't expect that the Empress would be scared sometimes. Unexpectedly, at this time, Nai Chen suddenly started laughing. Scared? How is that possible? Chu Qingyu immediately tried to refute. Nai Chen smiled, I'm not afraid of the Empress. Why did you last night? That's just a temporary fear. If you hadn't fallen asleep, I would have definitely. Tisk, tisk, tisk. The setting sun slowly sank into the mountains to the west. Seeing that Nai Chen didn't believe what he said at all, Chu Qingyu suddenly stepped forward and grabbed Nai Chen's collar with her beautiful hands. Her cheeks were slightly red, and she hesitated to speak. I suppressed my shyness and finally said it. Tonight, come to the Emperor's palace. Going tonight? Nai Chen's slightly satisfied expression suddenly froze. The momentum just now was gone. Because he knew in his heart that there was a system reward yesterday, repeat the same trick. He was able to barely suppress the Empress, and he quickly pretended to be asleep. But now, the old trick is repeated, has been used. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 246. The setting sun slowly sank behind the mountains. The nights in the past were always quiet and desirable. But now, it was completely different for Nai Chen. Seeing the sunlight gradually dim, Nai Chen's heart became more and more hanging. He clearly saw that the direction of the bedroom had been lit with a dim candle light. And through the window paper, he could vaguely see a beautiful figure swaying in the candle light. The dancing dress reflected her like a flower bush. This beautiful figure was originally beautiful and moving. But seeing it at this moment, Nai Chen completely lost his previous thoughts. After all, until now, his somewhat weak body has not recovered. As a 7th grade elixir, Longian aphrodisiac pill has extremely strong medicinal effects. But even so, there is no way to help Nai Chen fully recover. Although last night was beautiful, it almost cost him half his life. Beauty is a disaster, beauty is a disaster. Nai Chen now understands that the more beautiful a woman is, the more dangerous she is. No wonder there are rumors that married men have to hide from their wives. Although they haven't gotten married yet, after breaking the rules. The Empress, who couldn't even hide her blushing shyness when kissing, looked at him today like a wolf seeing a lamb. Just thinking about it, Nai Chen couldn't help but feel a chill on his back. It was fun at night, but it was a funeral afterward. At this moment, he had begun to regret it extremely. Why did he use old tricks yesterday to pretend that he was good? More importantly, after bullying the Empress, he deliberately provoked and mocked the Empress. This behavior is simply digging a hole for himself. I should have resisted the temptation earlier and waited until I reached the realm of the great emperor and could compete with the Empress before going to the palace. But after thinking about it, Nai Chen could only sigh helplessly. After all, facing Chu Qingyu, who seemed like a fairy from heaven last night, I'm afraid no one can resist. Half an hour later, the sky had completely darkened. Nai Chen, who was wandering around Tianyun Palace, didn't know what to do. He turned around inadvertently, but suddenly found that a beautiful figure had quietly appeared behind him. The moonlight shone down, and the flawless white figure seemed like a fairy portrait, beautiful beyond words. However, on the cheek of that peerless beauty, there was a faint blush. "Hey, my wife, why are you here?" Nai Chen coughed awkwardly. Unexpectedly, the long night finally came. "Of course I'm looking for you everywhere. It's so late, why are you still wandering around?" Chu Qingyu looked at Nai Chen with a little resentment. "Nothing, just came out to see the scenery." "Ha ha ha, I didn't expect to see a more beautiful scenery than the starry sky and bright moon. My dear, you are so beautiful tonight. But it's getting late, my dear, don't catch a cold if you wear so little, or go back to the palace quickly." "Well, I'll go back first, good night, my dear." After saying that, Nai Chen turned around quickly and wanted to escape far away. But before he took 2 steps, Nai Chen suddenly felt his sleeves being gently turned out. Turning around, it was the jade-like hand that pulled him out. At this moment, Chu Qingyu's eyes were dim, as if she was a little dissatisfied, and a little shy. "Where are you going?" "Go back to sleep." Nai Chen answered awkwardly. "What about what you promised me?" What? I don't think so, I have no impression at all, haha." Nai Chen seemed to be unable to remember anything and was about to leave. But he found that his sleeves had been firmly grabbed, and he couldn't move at all. "Tonight, you said you would sleep in the palace. Are you going to break your promise to me?" Chu Qingyu's cheeks were slightly puffed, and she was a little shy. Although she said that she wanted to regain yesterday's face. But for a girl, especially as an empress, to say such words on her own initiative. It was really more embarrassing than anything else. More importantly, her mind seemed to be completely in chaos. Even Chu Qingyu didn't know whether she wanted to compete with Nai Chen again at this moment, or wanted to. Guilt, self-blame, and the completely irresistible shyness filled her heart. Under the moonlight, the autumn eyes with dark waves were charming. Her cheeks were slightly puffed, with a slight blush. There was both resentment and dissatisfaction, and a sense of shyness and regret. The moonlight shone down, making the ice-like skin more crystal clear and moving. Flawless beauty, so beautiful that one can't help but indulge in it. Nai Chen coughed awkwardly, and suddenly an endless sense of responsibility emerged in his heart. How could anyone be so cruel to refuse such a pitiful empress? "Men, you can't say you can't do it. Even if I have to sacrifice my little body today, I will never back down." In ancient times, there were warriors who sacrificed their lives to accompany gentlemen, and now I am sacrificing my life to accompany my empress wife. I almost forgot about this matter, but fortunately I remembered it in time. "Wife, let's go." Nai Chen smiled slightly and walked towards the bedroom without hesitation. "Humph, I knew you were not serious." Chu Qingyu snorted softly, but unconsciously, a charming smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Under the bright moon, the white figure like a lotus leaned against Nai Chen. Her soft body seemed as soft as a ball of cotton. Fortunately, it was late at night and no one saw this scene. Otherwise, no one would believe that this cold and beautiful, yet graceful and slender figure would be the empress. Squeak. The door of the bedroom was opened. Huh. The candle flame was extinguished in one breath. Plop. Nai-Chen was thrown onto the bed. Ying. There was an unknown sound floating in the night sky. This cold voice was 3 parts charming and 7 parts intoxicated. This is just an accident. And soon, Nai-Chen fell down. How fast did he fall? In the dark night sky, a meteor streaked across the sky, as if carrying a smile that could not be concealed. There was a man who had crossed the realm and killed Emperor Lei Yan, shocking everyone. He had crossed to the sea-opening realm within a year, awakened the true body of enlightenment, and even took the West Sea Dragon King Aolan as his pet, causing an uproar in the world. He was promoted to an 8th-grade alchemist, reversed the history of alchemy, and refined the first 8th-grade elixir to be born in 1,000 years, and was infinitely respected by alchemists all over the world. He used the world as a furnace, all living beings as materials, and the blood of the empress as fire to burn the corpse of the half-step calamity to ashes, defeating the conspiracy of the 3 emperors for 100 years. But at this moment, in the middle of the night, in front of the empress, he lost all his face. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 247. The next morning, Chu Qingyu slowly propped up her body, and the quilt was removed, revealing half of her snow-white shoulders, with 3,000 green silk threads hanging down softly. Looking at Nai-Chen, who also happened to wake up, there was a smile on his beautiful face. There was a certain amount of charm in the smile, but more of it was a feeling of triumphant happiness. I never thought you would have this day. Chu Qingyu finally couldn't help but laugh. It was as if Nai-Chen had caught his weakness. For such a long time, he had been attacked by Nai-Chen in various ways, but he had not found a way to fight back. Nai-Chen took advantage of his shyness and ridiculed him more than once. The day before yesterday, I was even caught off guard by Nai-Chen, who suddenly became stronger. The majesty of being an empress was almost gone in front of Nai-Chen. But Chu Qingyu never thought that she would catch Nai-Chen's weakness at this time. It turns out it's a silver gun head, it's only strong once. Chu Qingyu covered her mouth and smiled softly. Hateful. At this moment, Nai-Chen couldn't find any way to fight back. I only regret that I was infected by the pitiful empress yesterday and came to the palace. The situation was reversed, and now, Chu Qingyu had the upper hand. Before I reach the realm of the great emperor, I'm afraid I won't even be able to hold my head up. I'm not convinced. Nai-Chen still tried to express his dissatisfaction with his determined eyes. If you are not convinced, I can give you another chance. Chu Qingyu's laughter was like a silver bell. As cold as ever, there is a trace of charm. But seeing that delicate body coming forward, Nai-Chen helplessly closed his eyes. There were obviously heavy dark circles beside his eyes. The reason is simple. Too weak. In the bedroom, Chu Qingyu couldn't help but smile. Damn it, I must avenge today's revenge. After a while, Nai-Chen walked to the door with his clothes slightly disheveled, and finally looked back at Chu Qingyu with a bit of determination. But this looks handsome looking back. Turning his head, Nai-Chen stumbled and almost fell to the ground. There was no way, his body was too weak at the moment, and it was already difficult to even walk steadily. After holding onto the wall and walking out, Nai-Chen felt as if he had lost all face like never before. He never thought that one day he would be ridiculed by the empress wife in turn. Moreover, it is actually because of this. Huading realm, the realm of the great emperor. At this moment, Nai Chen was more eager to climb the realm than ever before. Yesterday's face, no matter what, I want to get it back. Next time, I must bully the Empress until she cries. But as he walked, Nai Chen suddenly felt that he was no longer as ambitious as before. I took the last 2 remaining Dragon Yin aphrodisiac pills. After shaking the empty bottle a few times, he felt helpless. It seems that we must first refine a few more Dragon Roar aphrodisiac pills. Otherwise, within a few days, my waist will be completely destroyed. Brother Nai. Hello, Senior Brother Nai. Strange, Brother Nai, what's wrong with you? The passing disciples greeted Nai Chen one after another. But he soon realized that something seemed wrong with Nai Chen today. They took a closer look and discovered it immediately. Today, for some reason, Nai Chen has sunken cheeks and dark circles under his eyes. Not only did he look much thinner than before, but he also seemed to be much weaker. I remember seeing Senior Brother Nai coming yesterday. Although Senior Brother Nai didn't seem to be as healthy as before yesterday, there was basically nothing unusual about him. What happened today? What exactly happened to Senior Brother Nai one night? Is it the failure of enlightenment or the failure of a forced breakthrough that leads to damage to the cultivation level? But none of these seem to be. The disciples all looked at each other with a hint of embarrassment, completely unable to figure out the cause and effect. I can only watch quietly as the thin and weak figure moves step by step and gradually goes away. In my heart, I felt a little sad for Senior Brother Nai, whom I always respected very much. After finally moving to the back mountain, Nai Chen finally took a long breath. The powerful emperor is so terrifying. Until now, the feeling of weakness under the Empress has not eased. But even if he is in poor condition, he can only forcibly refine some elixirs. Burning the alchemy furnace with green flames, Nai Chen exchanged a lot of medicinal materials from the system mall and put them into the alchemy furnace. But this time, it was probably due to being too weak. The burning flame was obviously shaky and unstable. Nai Chen's control over the alchemy furnace and the temperature of the medicinal materials in it has also significantly declined. After all, after staying in the palace with the majestic Empress Qingyu for one night, it is normal for her hands to be so weak that they are shaking a little. The flames burned slowly, and although the situation in the alchemy furnace was not stable, it was still barely under control. After a long time, the flame of the alchemy furnace slowly extinguished. There was a slight fragrance of elixir, and the furnace lid was slowly opened under Nai Chen's control. There are only 4 elixirs in total, and their grades have only reached the 6th grade. It seems that the state does have a great impact on the quality of alchemy. Nai Chen sighed and had to take 4 6th grade Dragon Roar aphrodisiac pills and put them into his mouth. As soon as the pills entered his mouth, a warm current immediately spread throughout his body. Although it was far less powerful than the 7th grade pills, the warm current finally made up for Nai Chen's loss to a certain extent. It made his weak body feel much better. At least, his hands stopped shaking. Nai Chen was a little amused. It has been such a long time since I came to Lanchuan continent, and I think this is the first time I have been so embarrassed. Moreover, the reason was so weird that I couldn't even say it. Damn it, when this husband reaches the realm of the great emperor, I must teach the Empress a lesson once. Nai Chen has made up his mind. As his body improved, the speed and quality of pill refining also greatly improved. Not long after, a furnace of pills were refined. And without exception, all of them were 7th grade pills with almost no flaws. Not only the Dragon Roar aphrodisiac pills, which are currently the most scarce. Several furnaces of Jinyang burning tendon pills, 3 turn soul condensing pills, and Kingly red fire pills were also refined. He swallowed the pills one by one like eating candy beans. Although there was no way to make up for the loss of his body. But the powerful medicinal effects of the 7th grade pills were constantly tempering and strengthening Nai Chen's body. Burning tendons and bones, reborn from the fire. Under repeated tempering, Nai Chen's physique was also constantly strengthening. Finally, Nai Chen slowly opened his eyes. His physique had been tempered and strengthened to a great extent. At this moment, there was no big problem with his body. Except, weakness. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 248. After taking a long breath, Nai Chen felt that his body had recovered a lot, and Nai Chen finally breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he finds a way to avoid the Empress recently and ascends to the Cauldron realm as soon as possible, he will still have a chance to regain his lost face. Men, you can't say you can't do it. Nai Chen walked out of the back mountain with high morale and full of fighting spirit. But at this moment, he suddenly saw a beautiful figure appear. That slim figure is clearly graceful and beautiful, and the perfect arc seems to have no flaws. But the moment he saw it, Nai Chen suddenly felt a chill in his back. Where are you going? Do you want to go to the Emperor's palace tonight? There was actually a charming smile on Chu Qingyu's cold cheeks. That smile was obviously charming and intoxicating, but it made Nai Chen tremble slightly. He couldn't help but say what Chu Qingyu said on the first night. Crazy, are you a beast? If he was tortured for one more night, even the 7th grade dragon's yin aphrodisiac pill might not be able to save him. Kay looked at Chu Qingyu's faint and tender smile. But Nai Chen knew very well that the Empress, who usually blushed even if she was kissed, was completely serious at this moment. Sure enough, no one can guess a woman's thoughts. Do you want to go back to the bedroom with me? You are greedy for my body. Nai Chen felt a chill in his back. Even though the Empress Qingyu in front of her has slender legs and a graceful figure, every move seems to be charming, and it is absolutely impossible for him to fall into the trap again. At this critical moment, Nai Chen suddenly noticed that in the sky, Elder Wang was leading thousands of disciples and Tianyun temple monks to fly past. Everyone is responsible for the tasks of Tianyun Palace. Wife, I won't go to your bedroom today. I'll see you when I get back. After saying this, Nai Chen laughed awkwardly and quickly left through the air without any hesitation, without even looking back. Looking at the sky, Chu Qingyu did not catch up. But seeing Nai Chen running away in a panic, she burst into laughter. It turns out, you also have this day. After being bullied so many times by Nai Chen, he finally got his revenge. At this moment, Chu Qingyu smiled extremely sweetly. But looking at Nai Chen's back, his sparkling eyes were inadvertently filled with nostalgia and shyness. I don't have any strength now. I should be able to regain my strength after I come back in a few days. When Yu said these words, Chu Qingyu herself felt ashamed. He quickly lowered his head, his pretty face turned slightly red. Nai Chen, what are you here for? In the sky, Elder Wang, who was leading his disciples forward, was stunned and looked at Nai Chen in front of him with some confusion. Different from the past, Nai Chen was out of breath at this moment, and he obviously had a sense of panic that had not completely dissipated. I have known Nai Chen for so long, but it seems that Nai Chen always has countless secrets hidden in him. Elder Wang is very clear. So far, he has almost never seen Nai Chen panic. Even when fighting two great emperors, even when in front of the Empress. No matter what kind of opponent he faced, Nai Chen seemed to be indifferent. But what happened today? What could it be that could make Nai Chen so flustered and even reveal a hint of fear? Elder Wang could not hide his surprise. Don't ask about this. Although this matter is not big or small, it is related to a man's dignity. Nai Chen waved his hand and refused to answer. Man's dignity. While Elder Wang was wondering, Nai Chen had already asked. Elder Wang, what are you planning to do with these disciples? Elder Wang hesitated for a moment, then replied, although Emperor Fiyu is dead, there are still residual forces in the Holy Land. Now the renovation of Tianyun Palace has been basically completed, but the team sent to attack Fiyu Holy Land still failed to break it. The old man is planning to take his disciples to support him during this trip. That's great, Elder Wang, then you must take me with you. After hearing these words, Nai Chen instantly became excited. Well, the first batch of troops attacking Fiyu Holy Land alone already numbered tens of thousands. If I am going to lead this trip again, I already have enough manpower. The Holy Land of Fiyu has ancient restrictions. Those who do not cultivate wings using the Holy Land cultivation method will not be able to enter. Do you have a way to enter? Nai Chen suddenly asked back. That's true. Elder Wang seemed a little guilty. This is the reason why Tianyundian's repeated attacks failed. It's not impossible for you to want to be with us, but the problem is that the Empress seems to have something waiting for you. Elder Wang looked at the ground. I saw Chu Qingyu's cold figure lingering near Tianyun Palace. Although he pretended not to care. But inadvertently, his eyes were always secretly looking at Nai Chen in the sky. And there seemed to be an undercurrent of autumn waves in those clear autumn eyes. Empress and all, let's forget about it now. Nai Chen suddenly took a breath of cold air. Not only did he have no intention of staying, but he even more urgently urged Elder Wang to leave. Did you do something to make the Empress angry? Could it be that you had a quarrel with the Empress? Elder Wang's question was not answered. Seeing Nai Chen's increasingly hostile smile, he had to shut up and fly away. Seeing the Tianyun Palace slowly disappear behind him, Nai Chen breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing Nai Chen suddenly sighed in relief, Elder Wang became more and more confused. I remember that the Empress always took great care of you. What happened? This. Nai Chen sighed and did not answer. But suddenly asked. Is the Empress beautiful? Elder Wang was stunned by the question. Of course she is beautiful. Nai Chen then asked, does the Empress have a good figure? Your question. Elder Wang did not dare to answer for a while, but still whispered tremblingly. I dare not offend the Empress, but the Empress's appearance and figure are indeed almost unmatched in the world. Nai Chen suddenly asked again, is the Empress cute? What kind of magical questions are you asking? Elder Wang was a little dumbfounded. But at this moment, Nai Chen suddenly said. Yes, the Empress is beautiful, has a good figure, and is cute. But it is precisely because of this that it is fatal. Aren't these all advantages? What does it have to do with fatality? Elder Wang was completely dumbfounded. Nai Chen's irrelevant questions made him completely confused about what happened. The day before yesterday, the Empress kissed Nai Chen forcefully, and there were rumors in Tianyun Hall that Nai Chen might have some kind of connection with the Empress. But at this moment, why did Nai Chen act so afraid of the Empress? Could it be? A terrible idea suddenly emerged in Elder Wang's mind. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 249. Even though the Empress has never said it explicitly, the relationship between the two seems to have slowly surfaced. Could it be that? The real situation is that the Empress is pursuing Nai Chen, but Nai Chen is as protective as a jade and vows to die. So why did you look so scared when you saw the Empress? This inexplicable thought suddenly appeared in Elder Wang's mind and lingered. It does sound extremely ridiculous on the surface, but if you put what happened today into it. From the moment the Empress forced her to kiss Nai Chen, to Nai Chen showing fear of the Empress today. Everything seemed to go extremely smoothly. So, it is true. Elder Wang froze on the spot, almost completely dumbfounded. He never thought that the truth of everything would be like this. Faced with such a beautiful and powerful being as the Empress, Nai Chen was able to defend himself like a jade and refuse to obey her to the death. I'm afraid no man can do this kind of thing. Unexpectedly, Nai Chen's heart was so determined, and his will was not violated by force. Although I have great respect and belief in the Empress in my heart, But at this moment, Elder Wang was more moved from the bottom of his heart. Nai Chen, you are really a man's pride. For a moment, facing the wind, Elder Wang felt that his eyes were slightly wet. Nai Chen, you are truly a role model for our generation. Elder Wang put his hand on Nai Chen's shoulder and patted it hard twice. His voice was slightly excited and trembling. Nai Chen was stunned. Elder Wang's demeanor, why does it feel like something is not right? What did you just say? There shouldn't be anything more to say besides saying to leave quickly, right? He couldn't figure out which medicine Elder Wang took incorrectly. I'm sorry, I'm really deeply affected. Please calm down first and let me cry alone for a while. At this time, Elder Wang's emotions seemed to be as surging as the tide and uncontrollable. He walked to a corner and quickly disappeared into the shadows. There were only bursts of tears and the sound of sniffling. After an unknown amount of time, Elder Wang, whose old eyes were reddish, slowly walked out. Seeing his appearance, many disciples were stunned and rushed forward to ask. Elder Wang, what happened? Why are you crying like this? What happened? Because I discovered that Nai Chen is our male role model, a role model for all of us. Elder Wang did not answer, but his eyes looking at Nai Chen were full of approval, trust, and worry. Seeing Elder Wang's unprecedented expression, even the disciples who had no idea what was going on were filled with excitement. To be able to move Elder Wang to such an extent, Senior Brother Nai is truly a miraculous figure. Senior Brother Nai? A role model for our generation. I don't know who shouted loudly, and then many disciples on the clouds raised their arms one after another, and their hearts surged with emotion. Senior Brother Nai? A role model for our generation. Senior Brother Nai? A role model for our generation. Senior Brother Nai? A role model for our generation. The sound floated above the clouds, loud and intimidating. Many disciples were all filled with excitement, and their respect for Nai Chen increased significantly. Only Nai Chen was a little stunned when he heard the voice in his ear. He had never done anything at all. What disease did Elder Wang and these disciples commit? As the clouds drift slowly. Finally, when a huge castle in the sky appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The cheers one after another finally stopped. Looking at the scene in front of them, all the disciples looked serious and looked ahead with a slight fear. The huge clouds that stretched for unknown miles covered the sky and were extremely thick. And just above the clouds, there stood a castle in the sky. Countless huge castles stand in the clouds, majestic and cold, and all of them are engraved with the patterns of wings. Fiyu Holy Land has arrived. The area near the majestic air castle was already surrounded by monks sent by Tianyun Palace. When Emperor Fiyu left, he had taken away nearly 90% of his troops. If you can enter it, capturing Fiyu Holy Land is almost within your reach. However, the tens of thousands of monks from Tianyun Temple who came could only surround Fiyu Holy Land at this moment and could not enter it at all. Each holy place has its own ancient heritage and extremely mysterious secrets. As one of the largest holy places, Fiyu Holy Land is obviously the same. Even though Emperor Fiyu is gone, the space that separates the castle in the sky from the outside world still contains endless mysterious spells. As long as those who have not practiced the methods of the Holy Land and developed wings, even the powerful emperors will be trapped outside the Holy Land. Advance to attack, retreat to defend. Even though there is no strong person guarding the Holy Land, Fiyu Holy Land has been unable to be captured. Reinforcements are coming. Seeing Elder Wang leading a group of monks Yuyun, the soldiers of Tianyun Palace instantly burst into excitement. However, this boiling sound soon fell silent. Because if you want to enter Fiyu Holy Land, you cannot succeed because of the number of people or the strong people. If there are no wings to fly in, no matter how many people come, it will be of no use. Still no way to enter. Looking at the depressed expressions of the people around him, Elder Wang frowned slightly. The situation seemed to be worse than he thought. A faint glow covered his old arm. Elder Wang stretched out his hand, brewing countless spiritual energy to gather in his palm. Boom! With a palm strike, Elder Wang had reached the sea-opening realm for hundreds of years. His realm was as solid as a rock, and he had mastered the physical skills to perfection. But this palm that seemed to be brewing extremely powerful power could not even tear a small crack in the space that blocked the Fi'u Holy Land from the outside world. Even if he used more powerful spiritual power, it would be useless. Boom! Another palm strike. Elder Wang took a deep breath, gathered all his strength, slapped out a palm, and integrated the spell into the space, trying to disintegrate it. But all the spiritual energy disintegrated as quickly as clouds and smoke when it came into contact with the space, leaving no abnormality at all. The second palm also failed. Looking at the invisible space in front of him, Elder Wang's face became more and more solemn. Even with tens of thousands of troops behind him, he had the power but couldn't use it at all. This feeling was really uncomfortable. Even Elder Wang has no way. Who else can break through this space? Damn it, is it really impossible to take down Fi'u Holy Land, and let these grandsons escape? For a moment, the atmosphere became a little dull. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock. The love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 250. Emperor Fi'u was beheaded, and 90% of the Holy Land's troops had been lost. Facing Tianyun Palace, the atmosphere among the monks of Fi'u Holy Land was extremely dull. But after a few days, when they found that no matter how powerful the existence was, they could not break through the space in front of the castle in the sky, they became completely arrogant. As long as they can continue to consume and exhaust the troops of Tianyun Palace who are besieged here, they will have the strength to escape. After all the people in the Holy Land are monks, not mortals. Even if it drags on for several months and a year, it will be considered that all supplies have been exhausted and there will be no food. You can also rely on Anidia to continue to survive. There is a castle in the sky behind you, and there is a void in front of you that can block everything. The monks of Fi'u Holy Land soon showed their pride. Among them, Zhang Kang, who was elected as the interim leader, was even more arrogant and domineering. He originally only had the strength that he had just stepped into the sea-opening realm, and he was not even worthy of the title of Holy Emperor. In Fi'u Holy Land, he didn't have much status at all. But at this moment when all the strong men are out and there are only a handful of powerful men in the Holy Land, Zhang Kang is promoted as the leader. This is praised by a holy place. If he can withstand Tianyun Palace's attack, his future will be limitless in the future. Ha ha ha, you can't even enter our Fi'u Holy Land, and you still want to capture it. Your Tianyun Palace is really funny. Looking at the people in Tianyun Palace who were trapped outside, Zhang Kang laughed wildly, his expression full of provocation. He even laughed loudly without taking it seriously. What if we are surrounded? You can surround me here for a year, how can you continue to surround me for 10 years and 100 years? As long as we are unable to attack the Holy Land, we will continue to hide our capabilities and bide our time. Sooner or later we will regain our strength and attack the Tianyun Palace again. By then, I, Zhang Kang, will be the leader of everything. Don't you think you are very powerful? If you have the ability, you should enter the Holy Land and try it. Ha ha ha, it's really embarrassing for you to just stand outside. As Zhang Kang laughed wildly, others also laughed. Anyway, the space blocked in front of him is impossible for anyone to cross even if he laughs at it, no matter how much he laughs at it. Tianyun Palace, is this all it is? I thought Tianyun Palace was so powerful, but it turns out it's just like being trapped outside. Haha, Nai Chen is here too. It turns out that's all Nai Chen is. As the last laugh came out, the faces of the people around him instantly darkened. Nai Chen is here too. They immediately looked into the distance and saw the figure surrounded by the disciples. It's really Nai Chen. The space domain created by Fiyu Holy Land has extremely mysterious laws that no one can break so far. But the only rumor is that an air castle near the Flower Holy Land was breached not long ago. And the person who destroyed it was Nai Chen. Did I say something wrong? After saying that, the monk looked around and found that everyone's expressions had changed. Who are you talking about? You have to call Nai Chen. It has nothing to do with me. It's not like I called you here. Besides, isn't that space realm even a powerful emperor unable to break through? But at this moment, everyone's expressions changed significantly. Apart from Empress King Yu, the only person in Tianyun Palace who feared them the most was Nai Chen. It must be a rumor, yes, don't believe them, it comes from the ancient space realm. Unless they have the wings cultivated in our holy land, it is impossible for anyone to break through. As if to comfort himself, Zhang Kang stared down and murmured repeatedly. Yes, it's impossible. No matter how weird Nai Chen is, he would never do such an outrageous thing. The originally arrogant and domineering monks of Fiyu Holy Land all fell silent. Although he said this, the look of fear on his face was completely different. Strange, why don't those guys stop talking? Seeing the sudden silence from above, the disciples of Tianyun Palace were also a little confused. But soon, they noticed the fear in the eyes of those in Fiyu Holy Land when they looked at this place. There was a sense of fear that had never existed before. Even Elder Wang has nothing to do. What are they afraid of? Just as the disciples were confused, a figure suddenly walked out of the crowd. When did Senior Brother Nai come over? Why didn't I notice? It seems that he came with Elder Wang. Strange, what is Senior Brother Nai planning to do? Why do I feel that Senior Brother Nai wants to break through the space realm? In an instant, everyone was excited at the same time. Nai Chen seems to always be the one who can create miracles. Only this time the situation is obviously different. The miraculous magic contained in the space domain comes from ancient times and is far beyond what can be broken through by brute force. If there were no wings, let alone Nai Chen, even if the Emperor came here in person, he would still be trapped outside. Senior Brother Nai, can we really go in? At this moment, even the disciples of Tianyun Palace couldn't believe it. But at the same time, Nai Chen had already taken a step forward. In an instant, he had walked out of the encirclement of Tianyun Palace and appeared in front of the space realm. Boom! Nai Chen's figure flashed and he suddenly punched out. This punch seemed to have the endless power of a raging sea, and even the space domain that seemed to be as solid as a rock could not help but tremble. The fist wind swept across violently, and it spread to the surroundings like a fierce hurricane. Everyone who was swept by this hurricane felt horrified in their hearts. The power of this punch was enough to make anyone feel extremely afraid. Boom! However, although this extremely powerful punch created great power, it did not shake the space in front of him. After a long silence, Zhang Kang, who had shown a trace of fear, suddenly froze for a moment, and then suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, I have always heard rumors about Nai Chen, and there are even rumors that he once destroyed an aerial castle in our holy land with his own hands. I thought he was so powerful. It turns out that these rumors are just all rumors. With your little strength, you also want to break through the holy land. It's really laughable. As if relieved, the monks around Zhang Kang also laughed. Are you sure? But at this moment, they suddenly saw a smile on Nai Chen's lips. That smile made everyone feel a chill in their hearts at the same time. Wait, didn't he fail to achieve any effect even after he used all his strength to attack? After all, Zhang Kang's face suddenly changed. Suddenly, he saw with his own eyes that holy and dazzling feathers had grown on Nai Chen's back. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 251. 1, 2, 3. Jiang Kang's face turned completely pale. Behind Nai Chen, there were 6 wings. The 6-winged sky feather was a terrifying realm that even Emperor Yu could not reach. Moreover, he could clearly feel that the aura emitted by the 6 wings was not a decoration at all. The awe-inspiring majesty emanating from it seemed to have a restraint and tremor from the source for all the people in Fiyu Holy Land. This terrifying sense of oppression could not even be caused by ordinary emperors. For Fiyu Holy Land, this 6-winged sky feather was a natural nemesis. Although it had been heard that a sky castle was destroyed by Nai Chen. But no one believed, and no one was willing to believe that Nai Chen could really do such a thing. But at this moment, they found that they were completely wrong. Nai Chen not only had wings, but also had the highest realm that everyone could only dream of but could not reach, the 6-winged sky feather. The situation this time was completely different from before. Nai Chen took a step forward, and the space domain that no one had ever been able to cross was penetrated without any obstacles. Not only that, the space also spread out to the surroundings like ripples on the water, as if they were all afraid of the breath emanating from Nai Chen. That figure really came to Fiyu Holy Land. Impossible, you have never been in the Holy Land, how can you master our dense inheritance? Jiang Kang suppressed the infinite fear in his heart. After finally surviving the death of 3 holy emperors, he already had a lofty status in the Holy Land, and he was absolutely unwilling to let everything be destroyed. Although Nai Chen could cross the domain, he was the only one. As long as he could be wiped out, Fiyu Holy Land would still be unbreakable. He made up his mind completely, and endless murderous intent continued to spread and emanated from his body. Jiang Kang's eyes were bloodshot, and he fell into madness completely. Nai Chen, you must die here today. Blocking Nai Chen's way, Jiang Kang's arm was covered with a layer of feathers with a faint blood color. Those feathers not only expanded and grew, but also expanded rapidly. Covered with feathers, Jiang Kang's arms expanded countless times, like a thick tree trunk, even larger than his body. The whistling wind swept over the huge arms, as if to absorb everything around them. With a roar, Jiang Kang stared at Nai Chen with anger and punched him. This thick arm seemed to contain infinite power, and the full force of the blow contained Jiang Kang's infinite anger. Boom! Wrapped in a biting wind, a punch suddenly hit. In the overwhelming power, Nai Chen's figure seemed extremely small. Boom! A loud bang sounded, and Nai Chen was not affected by the punch that retreated at all. How is it possible? The violent aftermath shook the surroundings, and a faint flame like a lotus floated in the air. Jiang Kang opened his eyes wide, his expression filled with disbelief. He clearly felt an extremely powerful force sweeping over him. His reinforced arm covered with countless feathers was struck by lightning and was retreating step by step. Crack! The sound of broken bones was heard. The feathers covering Jiang Kang's arm were burning under the flames like magma. And the huge force spread and almost shattered his entire arm. But Nai Chen just swung a punch casually without using any magic. How could he exert such terrifying strength with just human power? Intense pain spread, and Jiang Kang yelled in pain, and sweat dripped down. His eyes were filled with fear, but he suddenly realized that Nai Chen's figure had disappeared. That figure was as fast as a ghost. Before Jiang Kang had much time to react, he found that a punch had arrived. And it was so fast that there was no place to dodge. Blast the dog head punch! Bang! Suddenly, Jiang Kang's head was struck by lightning, and his body fell directly like a kite with a broken string, and fell heavily to the ground. What kind of boxing is this? Everyone was stunned. Nai Chen's punch was simple and unpretentious, but it seemed mysterious and infinite. More importantly, No one had ever seen this strange and powerful boxing. Ding, blast the Holy Emperor's dog head, host's comprehension add 6. Not bad, not bad. Nai-Chen smiled and looked at Fiyu Holy Land. Although the number of cultivators here has been reduced to 1 in 10, there are still many dog heads to be hammered. I was almost squeezed dry by the Empress in Tianyun Hall, and I finally slipped out, but I must vent and improve my strength. Nai-Chen's smile made everyone feel cold behind their backs. They dared to guarantee that they had never seen such a terrible smile in their lives. What is he going to do? I don't know, damn, why do I feel a chill all over my back? The disciples of Fiyu Holy Land were all panicked. But it was too late for you. Nai-Chen's figure flashed suddenly, so fast that it was undetectable. And every punch landed on the dog's head accurately and fiercely. Blast the dog's head. Ah! Stop hitting me, I won't grow taller if you keep hitting me. My head is not a dog's head. Bang, bang, bang. Above the sky castle of Fiyu Holy Land, screams came one after another. Ding, blast the dog head, host's comprehension add 1. Blast the dog head, host's comprehension add 1. Blast the dog head, host's comprehension add 1. Successfully improved comprehension. The comprehension of 4 holy fists reached the pinnacle. The comprehension of lunar eclipse Buddha finger reached the pinnacle. These skills were all obtained by Nai-Chen from several supreme elders of Tianyun Hall using the Dragon Yin Yang pill. Originally, he had no time to learn, but with the improvement of his comprehension, he easily comprehended all the skills. A punch was thrown, as if 4 punches appeared from the 4 directions of heaven and earth and fell from the sky. The finger was covered with a faint moonlight, and under one finger, it seemed as if the Buddhas were angry and majestic. In the strange phenomenon of heaven and earth, the huge power swept across the entire Fiyu Holy Land. The man who had tried his best to resist turned pale, realizing that his strength was not on the same level as Nai-Chen's. How could he resist such an existence? In the center of the sky castle, a golden iron lock was covered with a faint golden light. The aura flowing on it seemed to be connected with the domain that blocked the space. So it's this. Nai-Chen smiled slightly, and his figure suddenly approached. No, stop him. The monks in the Holy Land were horrified. But Nai-Chen was so powerful that no one could stop him. Boom. The people in front were instantly scattered by the air wave, and Nai-Chen's figure had already reached the golden lock. With a punch, the golden lock shattered. The space domain of Emperor Fiyu disappeared in an instant.